Reality Team TV, we're back. We're back. And onto the red chair, we've got another special guest as usual. You know, this one, I've been looking forward to it for quite a while. You know what they're saying? Everything works on God's timing. You get me? So yeah, man, I'm happy that we finally got Danielle on the red chair. Danielle,
Yeah,
welcome to the red chair, man.
thank you for having me.
You see even the hair, I don't know if you clock, everything happens for a reason. Your hair, the red chair, it's all matching. I like it though, man. How you feeling though, man?
I'm feeling good.
Feeling good, yeah?
Yeah.
Just first and foremost, even in terms of like mental health, like when did when did you get into this journey of becoming a mental health coach, right? Yeah, when did this journey begin?
I'll say for me, that one, I kind of fell into it, but it was more after having my son. Because one thing I said was that I needed to overcome my anxiety before I have any kids, because I don't want to put my stuff onto them either through how I react to them or what's it called, through like avoiding things or how I treat them, or even avoiding problems that I do not have knowledge about because I've not actually done the work. So I'll say that is when I actually started to take it more seriously with applying practical things, because at that point when I was pregnant, it's like, it's now or it's now, because I was pregnant and I needed to work on it before I had my son. But before that, I didn't even know what mental health was until I was 13 and I started to have heart palpitations. And because that was just weird, because I just felt like it was like a heart attack type thing. So I just started to do research. And at the time I was doing, no, I think that was a bit before I started to do sociology in school. So that kind of helped me understand the world view. But before that, I've always been a people person. I genuinely love to help people, understand people and stuff. So that kind of got me into learning about things about human behavior and that type.
And even just to talk about just a little bit about your pregnancy, how was that like? Like how was that journey like in terms of like obviously when you found out that you got pregnant,
Yeah.
and like during those 9 months, like how was that like for you?
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that like a real journey? Yeah.
It was a whole madness.
It's a whole madness.
Yeah.
Now I hear you though, obviously because you said like when you got pregnant, this is when obviously this
Yeah.
began in it. But just go on.
Oh yeah, so basically I moved out of my dad's house when I was 18 and I was staying with my aunt, and then I was 19 then, and then I'm 19 and pregnant. Also, I'm the last person anyone will think would be pregnant, because I was always like on job with stuff that I was doing this, that and the other. And then also it was a situation where it was toxic, but I didn't realise it was toxic because we weren't shouting and stuff, but because there was a lot of manipulation, it was just like I was someone that I'm very understanding, so I was just listening to excuses instead of taking them as facts. And then outside of that, as well with my pregnancy, I had HGV, hypervigilation thing. I've forgotten how to say it properly.
Yeah.
The full thing, but it's HGV is basically like morning sickness on steroids. So
Oh,
like
shit.
yeah, for a month straight, I couldn't even go work. I could barely leave the house. When I tried to go get help from like the maternity ward, they were like, you're not past 12 months pregnant, so we can't do anything for you. I called 111, had to go to the place to get checks done. They said I was severely dehydrated. For me to even get the tests done to see what's wrong with me, I couldn't even hold down water. That's how bad it was, because I'll throw it back up. And they barely gave me any help. And then I think later on they might have just given me some tablets or whatever. But I dealt with that most of my pregnancy. Getting to the end, it got a bit better. But yeah, going to work, because at that time I was at Croydon and I was working in Central. So I had to change up at Brixton. By the time I get to Brixton, I would have thrown up. So I always had a bottle on me. So almost every day to work, I literally had to go through that. But then once I was going through that, I was going through stuff with my son's dad and stuff. And then I was just seeing the disrespect. And then I had to say, getting to the end of my pregnancy, before I was going to give birth, I was just like, you know what, we can just co-parent and then move like that. And also with that, I'll say from the ending of my pregnancy to the first couple of months when I gave him birth was when I would say I actually started to properly address the root causes of the, I would say people pleasing, just to use a vague word, but more of a thing of not knowing how to set boundaries with people and not knowing how to advocate for myself.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want people to be uncomfortable. I didn't want people to feel like I was judging them. But the thing is, you can still state what the expectation and the standard you have without, I wouldn't say caring how it, I'm not saying not caring how it affects others, but it's not about them. It's about you, your standard,
Absolutely,
and the level at which you expect people to come into your life and show up. And it's also making sure that you uphold that standard as well. Because one thing I'd realized was that the reason why I was allowing excuses from like my son's dad and stuff was because I was making excuses for myself with little things where I wasn't like fully committing to the things that I said I was gonna do. So because I was making excuses for myself, and I can understand, oh, so you two, I can understand your own, how you're not showing up.
Yeah.
And that's where for me is that thing of accountability as well, with how we show up within ourselves, for ourselves, with the little promises and stuff. Because then that goes on to how we hold other people to account within our life. So it's like the standard that you set for yourself. Sometimes the reason why you have a low standard for other people is because you have a low standard for yourself.
And you can always be a mirror as well. That's why I started understanding.
Yeah, because it's like, if I can hold myself to a high standard and I can be disciplined, I don't need to accept your rubbish because it's possible.
Exactly.
And it's not, I'm not doing it because it's easy, I'm doing it because I'm choosing to do it.
But what it is what you've allowed inside your space. You know what I mean? To happen. Because obviously at the end of the day, you don't judge no one.
Yeah.
But you know what you require to continue doing what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah. And even with that as well, it's like, when I do say things as well, it's not, some people are just like, oh, just cut everybody off. But no,
It don't work like that.
Yeah, it's seeing the person's character. Because there will be low moments sometimes, but then even that, how do they respond to that?
Of course.
And do they try to work back up from it? It's noticing those little things as well.
I would even say, sorry to cut you, I would even say, even down to that, what I've started understanding is the reason I don't judge people is because a lot of people like ideas of things, but they've never experienced it. So they've never trained for this moment.
Yeah.
So for me, I have zero expectations unless you've gone through that experience, for example, and you know what you're doing, then maybe I can get on you about stuff.
Yeah.
But some people, just being real, their level or frequency is just not there yet, or they're still getting to know themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even that, it goes back to understanding the person that you're expecting things from, because how you're expecting them to show up in your life.
Sounds so good.
Because how you're expecting them to show up in your life, are they showing up for themselves in their life like that?
And you don't know them like that sometimes as well.
Yeah.
I agree.
And it's like, sometimes we actually need to be able to assess certain things. And one thing with me as well that I try to encourage people to do, and one thing that I've been practicing myself, if I feel uncomfortable, I feel something is off, I'll communicate it first, see how you respond. If you are just like, oh, brush, fair enough, I'll remove myself.
100%.
If there's confusion, because that was one thing that kept me within the relationship with my son's dad, there was a lot of confusion. So I'm like, oh, maybe, like, there's that maybe. But then now, how I look at it is, do I want to be following someone that's confused? This is also with friendships, because the people around you, they're also leading you in certain aspects.
We're both going somewhere.
Yeah. So do you want to be following someone that's confused? No. The other thing is, if they're not confused, they know what they're doing.
Of course.
And if they don't know what they're doing, they are confused. Do you want to follow someone confused? No.
You're both gonna be confused.
Yeah.
Confusion as well, yeah. Like, let's say, for example, people that take a negative route of confusion is because they're looking, to me, I always base it off, someone's looking for something, they've never been here, but they have to get there.
Yeah.
So they're willing to do anything and everything to get there, even if that means confusion. Yeah.
And that's the thing, you have to look at it and say, a lot of us don't do that. We're just like, oh, we've known them for so long, this, that, and the other. You have to look at it to say that the way they're showing up right now, and with their worst form, do I have the capacity to deal with this? Do I have the capacity to be okay to be burdened by them? Because one thing I realized recently was that when, I think around the time I was pregnant, I was journaling a lot. So I was journaling about how I felt like a burden to my non-biological parents, because no matter what, they're always there for me. To this day, if any problem I call them, I know they're going to be there. Or I know like they'll try their best to be there. But then I have other blood family saying that, oh, no one's going to love you like your biological parents, this, that, and the other. No, for real. And then I told my non-biological mum about it, and she felt really hurt because she was like, why do you feel like a burden? But it wasn't because they made me feel like a burden. It was because of what other people were saying. But then now I have even started to more realize that me feeling like a burden was not a bad thing, but I'll say burden might be the wrong word.
Of course, yeah.
But the thing is, for the people in your community around you, you need to be okay to be burdened by them.
100%.
Because you know that, and it's the relationships are reciprocal.
Of course.
And you know that they'll be able to show up for you in the time that is needed. So that was not a bad thing. The thing is just that they love me enough to make sure that they always show up for me.
Of course.
And I'm always like going to be grateful for that, even though sometimes there's little things that maybe I might not listen and stuff, but they're still there. Even with the path that I'm taking, if they don't agree with it, they still show up for me, and I'm always grateful for that. But reflecting on that reminded me of relationships that we have, and actually building relationships and community. I'll say having my son reminded me the importance of it.
100%.
Because before that, I would just self-isolate when I was going through stuff.
100%.
So for me, this is even something that I've been working on and trying to build a bit more.
Of course.
And as I'm meeting people that are like-minded and stuff, sometimes like, we meet, we just say here and there, but I'm like, let's actually meet up.
Of course, 100%.
Like if some people that might have kids a similar age, it's like, we can meet up and do that as well.
I wanna ask you a question here. As obviously like as a mental health advocate, as a mental health coach, do you think someone can fully heal, without basically like healing their relationship with their mum and dad, with their parents fully? Yeah, talk to me, because sometimes certain people say, part of the healing process, it involves forgiving and healing certain relationships, such as like with your family, your mom, your dad, or so forth. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll say, even when it comes to the thing of healing, I'll say we're constantly healing, because this life life will always show you shiggy. It's the thing about mental health. Building mental resilience is part of mental health. I was deep in, like, if you're going to the gym and you're dedicated to the gym, you're dedicating yourself to be in pain every week, because you have to be pushing yourself to break the muscles or whatever, and then for it to be rebuilt. That's the same thing with the mental as well. We have to build mental capacity. And also, the negative feelings that we do feel and stuff, they are normal. And we would have things that might happen, but it's when you now know how to go through the process and not stay stuck. I'll say that is where the healing lies within. And going back to your question, like, for me, I'm no contact with my biological dad. I'm low contact with my biological mom. The thing is, my biological dad, I don't really have a relationship with him. I only knew him when I was 13, and even then, he wasn't like my dad. And I've had a great relationship with my non-biological parents, so I know what that type of love feels like. And so it's like, you can't fool me. No, you can't fool me, but
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and it's also a thing where obviously he's been through certain things.
Of course.
I get that. But even though you might be my dad by blood, we don't have a relationship.
Of course.
And it would be that relationship, if we had that relationship, that would make me want to, I miss this feeling, but we've never had that. So I can't miss something I've never had. And some people, because, and even with my biological mom, I'm low contact with her, because I know that if we spend too much time together, she's going to bring something up, and then it will just...
I would say as well, women, sorry to cut you, I say women, you lot things totally different to men's one. Like, we won't agree with each other, for example.
Yeah.
A woman's one's like, no, but what did you mean by that? So I get it.
Yeah, but the thing is, some people will still criticize me for being low contact with her. The thing is, I'm choosing to still have her within my life,
of course,
to a certain degree. But you
just know yourself.
But I know the degree within which I can have her within my life, and still allowing her, she still has the ability to have a relationship with my son.
Of course.
So it's a thing where people don't understand that I'm still choosing someone that has a track record or a pattern of letting me down, and then also bringing certain things up that don't need to be brought up. So literally, why would I keep on... Normally, I wouldn't have that type of person in my life.
Of course.
So I'm choosing to still have someone that would put me in a bad mental state in my life.
But you're trying to do the right thing and still...
because I'm amicable with her, like, everything's calm, I'm not like rude to her, that type of thing. It's just like love from a distance. 100%. And don't have the best relationship, in a sense where we don't have that much to talk about at times. So it's like people do forget that when you have relationships with family members, you actually need to have stuff that you like to talk to them about. It's actually a relationship as well.
Sorry to cut you off, yeah. This is why I always say to people, as much as we've got things going on in life, for example, it's like me and him, our family, for example.
Yeah.
One thing I love about us lot, we still have the same energy as if when we was young. Because he's gone through his life, I've gone through my life, but we've never allowed that energy to get to drift.
In between what we've got.
I feel like once that happens, you start getting energy from outside. You get what I mean? Then energy from outside is not our energy. You can lose yourself within not being involved in your actual thing. So even down to sometimes, it's a good and a bad thing, but I feel like you see when some of us are aware of ourselves and we get to a point where we understand ourselves, I think sometimes that's good because now you can start a fresh slate. Like, you don't know what your parents went through, for example, to a degree. So it's like, sometimes copying their route might not help you on your journey.
Yeah, and it's also a thing where I've realised, because sometimes there's certain people that were like, they were maybe on bad terms with their parents, or they hadn't spoken to them and their parents died. Because I was even talking to someone and she was talking about how after her dad died, it was a bit hard for her type of thing. And then I was breaking it down and I was saying that sometimes the reason why people miss their parents that were never there for them after they've gone is because, or not that they feel bad, is because now you can actually have an expectation and they can't let you down because they're no longer here.
That's crazy.
Because now you can say that, oh, they might have changed. They would, maybe there was a possibility for them to change and actually show up, but now we wouldn't have that.
Wouldn't know.
So now you're allowing yourself to have hope because they're no longer here, because you can't be let down. And some people don't realize that. And then it's like they don't realize that they're holding on to the hope of what could have been, because when they were there in real life, they wouldn't have had that hope because they knew it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's true.
So now it's just that want for that validation, is that want to be seen coming back now because they're gone. And sometimes they might have been there when they were there as well. So people don't even realize that at times it's not because you didn't have that relationship, it's because you still want to be seen.
100%.
Yeah.
I even say even down to what you just said as well. Yeah.